welcome to the teaching for the parish evangelization cells. And the theme for this meeting and for the next one is based entirely on a mind-boggling text, on Romans chapter 12, verses 1 to 2. However, the first part of the teaching of this theme is Christian life as sacrifice and worship to God. This is, as I've said, part 1 of this teaching. I would like to read the text taken from Romans chapter 12, verses 1 to 2. Therefore, I exhort you, in view of the mercies of God, to offer your bodies as a sacrifice, living, holy, and acceptable to God, your rational service. That's verse 1. Verse 2. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, so that you may discern, you may determine what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. This passage is justifiably one of the most known passages in the New Testament. It encapsulates what the Christian's total response to God's grace of saving mercy, operative in Jesus Christ, should be. Though Christian living contains set of rules, it never begins with rules, with them. It simply begins in the joyous offering, joyous oblation of one's whole existence to God, whose mercy has come all the way to meet us in Jesus, his Son. Paul's letters wrestle with deep theological questions, but they finish with distinctively, quintessentially Christian ethical exhortations and imperatives. Needless to say, his letter to the Christian community in Rome is undeniably no exception. However, it is markedly reputed to be one of the most theological books in the Bible. So, why does Paul bother with the practical stuff at the end of the letter? Christian theology is all practical, and truly Christian life is practical. Paul's proclamation of the good news is profoundly theological, but it is also remarkably practical. Jesus' gospel is intended to transform our life until we own and live out the theology the gospel has abysmally failed to achieve its purpose. Now, let us turn to verse 1 of this text. I believe that Paul, in Romans chapter 12, verse 1, underlines a fundamental insight that should enlighten our discussion, your discussion, about our Christian life as a sacrifice, a sacrifice and worship to God. That is, as real and genuine worship. Let us explain few nuggets in this verse. Therefore, I exhort you, I urge you, in view of, because of the mercies of God. Paul's authoritative exhortation is fully based on God's manifold mercy revealed in Jesus Christ, as set forth in the first 11 chapters of the letter. The therefore, at the beginning of this chapter, confronts us with the key question. So, what are we to give to God for the many displays of His mercy He has given to us in Jesus Christ? Or what should be my response, our response, to God's multiple grace of mercy given in His Son? The second nugget: to offer, to present your bodies as a sacrifice. Paul deliberately uses the word body and probably refers to our whole person, namely the embodied nature of our persons, interacting with the world around us, laid on the altar like a sacrifice in the temple, entirely dedicated to the service of God in the prosaic, day-to-day activities of life. But this worship is rational. The third nugget: spiritual service, rational worship. The word service or worship translates the Greek latreia, coming from the verb latriuein. Originally it meant to work for hire or pay. It signifies the voluntary undertaking of work. It came to mean to dedicate one's life to, and finally to be the word specifically used of the service of the gods. In the Bible, it never means human service, but used of service to and worship of God. However, this service, this worship, brought about by our own bodies, by our own bodily existence, is rational or spiritual. What does that mean? Because it involves not only the heart or the mind, but heart and mind. It is therefore informed, that is to say, we do not give ourselves to God as His sacrifices inadvertently, unknowingly, like animals brought to be sacrificed, to be slaughtered, but knowingly and willingly. Namely, it emanates, it comes from that which is appropriate for us as rational human beings, endowed with the highest faculties of the intellect and will, engaged to serve or worship God as our Creator and Redeemer. So, the question we might ask: what is real, genuine worship? Real worship is the way we live, not what we do in church at Sunday Mass. It is not the offering to God of an awesome Sunday liturgy. It is rather the sacrifice of everyday life to Him. Not something confined to one place or to one time, but which involves all places and all times. We are tempted, my dear friends, to split the spiritual world from the material or secular one. To think that only certain parts of our lives have spiritual, eternal value. A Christian may say, I'm going to church to worship God, but he or she should also be able to say, I'm going to work to worship God, or I'm going to the gym to worship God. Corporate worship is appropriately commanded in Scripture. I'm not against it, far from it. But such special times are only one aspect of the continual worship, of the daily offering to God of our bodily existence in the otherwise secular sphere. Either the whole of Christian life is worship, offered, sacrificed to God, and our gatherings in church provide teaching for this, or these gatherings are entirely absurd, illogically absurd. I finish this teaching by quoting John Chrysostom, who was 4th century Bishop of Constantinople and doctor of the church. And it's a fitting reflection on genuine, on real worship. I quote, "And how is the body to become a sacrifice? That the eye look on no evil thing, and it has become a sacrifice. Let your tongue speak nothing filthy, and it has become an offering. Let your hand do no lawless deed, and it has become a whole burnt offering." God bless.